Welcome back to the adventures of Beefstick the Barbarian. Last time we went into the ruins, into these ruins near Durford village. Went through some pretty brutal fights, used up all our supplies. Decided to head over to Durford to restock. So that's what I did. I met a group of people outside the town that claim that a woman is hiding out in this town, and this woman killed a bunch of babies in Defiance Bay. I don't know if that's true or not, but the people outside of town want me to kill her, but or at least trick her into following me out of town so that they could ambush her. But I'm gonna find out for myself what's going on here. So I went to the blacksmiths, and I sold off a bunch of stuff. And I bought a badass pike for Palagina. And it just got all types of bonuses. I added the shocking lash part. I enchanted that myself, but the rest, increased reach, well that's for every pike. Predatory, overbearing, exceptional. Thing is just badass, and gonna be doing some nice stabby with that. So, alright. Next order of business. Let me switch her back over to her gun.
How may I help?
What?
Is to explore the rest of this village. Definitely want to go to the inn and rest up and buy some supplies there. Alright. So we've gone to the mill and past here. Let's go this way and up over there.
Indeed.
The woman looks briefly through you as if she doesn't know you're there. Grieving mother. This middle-aged peasant woman is dressed in brown leather cloth draped down to her knees. Her hands are working at separating stringy, colorless vegetables in a pile before her, stripping the heads off the long, fibrous stems with a paring knife. She discards the stem one by one, placing the heads of the vegetables into a small cradle-like basket in front of her. She doesn't greet you as you approach. You're not sure she even knows you're there. Excuse me? The woman doesn't respond. She keeps stripping the heads off the vegetables with a steady rhythm. She may be deaf. There's no indication she hears you. Let's take a closer look. At first glance, she seems nothing more than a middle-aged woman, unremarkable, maybe less stern than most, who seems more focused on the weaving in her lap than on her surroundings. Yet suddenly you notice she's not stripping the vegetables before her any longer. She's weaving, and the vegetable pots are now missing. She still pays you no mind, her brown locks torn and snagged from a lack of washing, like many of the townsfolk you've seen. There's a strange blur to her. Even the motions of her hands seem to be playing with threads that lack color, in a shape that lacks interest. It may be that she is half-minded or deaf, but something feels wrong. As you watch, her knitting takes on an odd cadence, and you have a terrible suspicion that something lurks beneath what your eyes are showing you. Well, let's focus on her. Her brown hair is long, almost impossibly to the length of her hands. As you follow the streams of her locks downward, the hair becomes long and black, spilling off into the threads of black and silver and wrapping around her hands. She is forming a soul cradle with the threads, braiding a net in front of you, each finger long and sharp like a series of knitting needles, almost hypnotic. The silver and black strands on her hair weave together, with silver predominating as a highlight, the black shadowing it. And suddenly, you are calm. You are on a plateau, almost the height of a tower, several stories high. The plateau is like a table lying beneath a clear sky, and beneath the plateau, surrounding it in all directions, a forest, hazy with mist, although whether it is actual mist, or distance, or a recollection. Resting in the curve of natural arch above you is a great copper bell, half again the size of a man, hanging at attention, as if looking down on you and the event unfolding before you. The plateau has soaked in the sun, and the rock beneath you is rough and warm. The sky forms a cradle around you. You feel different, not disembodied, but you feel your body, your physical contours have changed along with the surroundings. And you hear a soft series of chimes, like wind chimes. At the sound, the scene gains color and texture, as if the sound is beckoning you gently forth, filling your senses and thoughts, like mist roiling softly into a sealed chamber. And the chime coaxes you deeper into the memory, and you're certain it is a memory, a warm one. You are on the stone of the plateau, your knees on the warm texture of the ground, silver, white, shimmering like Adra. The plateau is formed of it, glistening in the sun. You can feel the heat on your skin, your wrists, and your hands. Your hands are in motion. Weaving, not thread, but gathering, tenderly moving along the first movements of Barrel's wheel. Your hands are wet. Your hands are upon the flesh of a newborn child, and you could feel the crowning of a tiny head turning in your grip, its head slick, wet from the womb. The hands you are wearing, inhabiting, have done this many times, and they are practiced and confident. Is she a midwife? You can feel distant pains in your own head as the head emerges, a stream of fluid from the womb helping the newborn slide forth, and a woman's labored breathing crying out. As your hands move, you hear the sound of chimes, clear, cutting through the haze of memory. You cannot see where they are coming from, but they are close, and they are meant as a comfort. Of that you are certain. And coaxed by your hands, every movement causing the chimes to sound again. Almost eagerly, the child comes forth. As it does, your hands are in motion, weaving, moving along the length of a soft, wet rope. No, an umbilical cord from the legs of the naked woman before you. You are holding a small child, still wet from the womb, before you. The child cries out, its cry full of life, full of soul, the ringing of chimes echoing in its thoughts, filling it with its welcome. The soul is blurred at the edges, as if you are viewing a soul from within a soul, but it is there. It is alive. The woman before you is weeping, and at her first cry, her hands reach out for it. You surrender the child to her, something you have done many times before, and as your hands move, the chimes also echo the movement, and you realize the chimes are hanging from the cords of your wrist. And where once they echoed in memory, they are now echoing in the child's mind as well. The chimes are intended to welcome the child, to be its first gentle greeting into the world, a soothing sound guided by the tender motions of your wrists. You are helping to weave its thoughts, its perceptions, and the experience. The experience. The woman laughs with a ragged joy, laughing from a parched throat. Her emotions seem soothed, but the physical demands of labor have left her exhausted. But the child is here. The child is safe. And all atop the plateau is peaceful calm, distant, flattening out as the memory persists. With effort, the scene bleeds of color and your mind becomes your own again. There is no pole, no anchor, yet the sound of chimes remain. As they existed in the memory, they sound here as well, and they are hanging from woven braids on the wrists of the woman before you. Even as your head is spinning from the touch of her mind, the sound of the chimes on her wrist are sharp and clear, as if coaxing you back into the real world. The woman still sits before you, but she's nothing like what you first saw. She's wearing black, shredded garment that drape over her form like streamers. Her hair is streaks of black and run through with silver. Her age is almost impossible to tell. She simply feels old, like a crumbled watchtower. As she lifts her head to face you, you see that her hair is draped across the front of her face like a veil. What you first saw of her was a mental glamour of some sort, unconscious, and you realize what you see is not what the world sees, and you are perhaps the first to see her true self. Still, you don't sense a threat in the realization. If anything, you feel a sense of relief from the figure. You can hear her thoughts, and she's glad to at last be seen. Who are you?
I am seen, but the eyes of others do not remember. You were the first to see me as I am, the call stripped aside.
There is a light touch on your mind, a caress, and her left hand mirrors the motion of the touch, reaching up to the air between you. You hear the chime on her wrist sound softly. Her hand moves as if pantomiming, resting on your cheeks at a distance, and she speaks softly and slowly.
Your memories. Cadence of wheels on a caravan track. Fever. Questions by running water. Violence in a night's campfire. Arrows in the dark. And fleeing. Falling rock and cracking stone. And a storm.
Biowak.
The storm.
She swallows, and the chime sounds as her hand shakes. She stops, her hand frozen in the air.
The storm that brushed you. Did its screaming wake you from your mind's cradle?
The question seems to
Your
be for both of
memory
you.
of it is painful. Its cry is difficult to ignore. It's like a child. Many children crying out.
I encountered a Biowak, yes, and it did something to me. Her hand withdraws shyly, the chime sounding softly once again. The woman stands, uncertainly, as if she'd been sitting for some time, or is too weak to bear her own weight. You notice her cheekbones are tight, her face gaunt, yet while her stance is weak, she seems determined to stand before you.
You are able to see me.
It is almost a question. You suddenly realize she doesn't seem to know what you saw when you looked at her, the image on the plateau. Yet the image was so clear, so sharp, you're surprised she didn't feel you there.
To see me is a rare gift. A watcher's gift.
I've never been able to do that with a living person. Except you.
So many questions, thoughts, whirling like storm winds. That storm still roars through you, deep beneath your thoughts, yet muted and secret, like an underground river. You cannot tell if it is carving new channels, or eroding what keeps your true strength buried. The fact that you could hear it at all, survive it, is something few have ever done. Your power will grow stronger with each soul you touch, as it allowed you to reach out to mine.
There is a silence, and although it seems to last for but a heartbeat, in your thoughts it stretches out between the two of you like a pull between your minds. You blink, take a breath, and then you realize she wants to ask you a question. You can't form the words, as if assembling them is painful. Or there simply are not enough pieces. Assemble the thought. Do you wish to travel with me? You feel a wave of fear, gusted with the strength of relief, although oddly her expression does not change. The fear dissipates and you feel strength and certainty, as if the plateau from her memory lies beneath you, and a calm sky looks down upon you. Whoa, she's a companion! Sweet, a cipher! Ah, who to get rid of? I just picked up Haravius. I hate to ditch him right now, but I don't want to ditch any of my melee characters. Or Alaf. Let's ditch Haravius for now. Cool. .40 focus. Alright, let's check her out. Grieving Mother. Level 6 Cipher. High Perception. High Dexterity. So let's focus, +6 accuracy. Talents. Draining Whip. Modify Soul Whip, +2 focus on hit. Enhances the draining power of the Cypher's Soul Whip, regenerating focus more quickly. Biting Whip. Modify Soul Whip. Cypher's Soul Whip bites deeper, granting a bonus to damage. Greater focus. +10 max focus. Alright, let's see. Eye Strike. Requires 10 focus. Speed average. Shocks an enemy's visual receptors, dazing and blinding them as well as blinding nearby targets. Okay, fairly small AoE. It's got an interrupt. Blind for 11 seconds, daze for 11 seconds. Alright. Fighting Spirit. Requires endurance below 50. Increases her accuracy and damage. All folk have an indomitable spirit that rises to the challenge when things look grim. Whenever a folk is below 50% endurance, they gain a bonus to accuracy and damage. It's passive. Okay, cool. So that doesn't require any... No focus needed. Cool. Fractured Volition. Violates an enemy's memories to bring vivid recollections of past failures to the surface, leaving the target hobbled and weakened. 13.2 seconds. Okay. Mind Blades. Co-opts the target's essence, generating a slashing blade of force that attacks them before leaping to up to 5 additional targets. Area of effect. Targets. 13 to 20 slash, and then 15 to 21 for jump targets. Wow, it actually does more to jump targets than the initial target. Huh. Mind Wave. Target becomes the object of a concussive blast of psychic energy, suffering raw damage from the trauma. Characters in the conical area behind the target failing a fortitude check are knocked prone from the blast. 10 to 19 raw. 3.3 prone. Target plus 3.92 meters, 120 degree cone. Alright. Phantom Foes. Invades the minds of targets in the area of effect, causing them to believe they are surrounded by phantom foes, leaving them flanked for the duration. That's cool. Pretty large area of effect too. Puppet Master. Destroys a target's psychic defenses, leaving them dominated by the cipher for the duration. 11 seconds. Cool. Recall Agony. Causes the target to relive the psychic trauma of an injury moments after receiving it, experiencing the damage all over again. 30% of all damage reapplied over 13.2 seconds. Oh wow. Alright, so if I had done a lot of damage to a target, that could be pretty nasty. Soul Ignition. Forces an enemy's soul to leak energy, igniting the air around them and burning them over time. 58.4 burn damage over 11 seconds. Soul Whip. Passive. Focus below maximum. Okay, so as long as I don't have full focus, this works. Causes the Cypher's weapons to generate a field of parasitic energy that lashes out at the target, increasing damage inflicted and generating focus on the Cypher. Alright. So it does 1.2 damage normally, and then from my modifiers I get +2 focus on a hit and another times 1.2 damage. Cool. Whisper of Treason. Imparts a bedeviling secret to an enemy that causes its allegiance to bend, charming them for the duration. High stealth, that's cool. Pretty well rounded. Decent athletics, decent survival. Alright. So she has 85 endurance and 340 health. Aleph has 83 and 248. I'm gonna put her at the front and be my scout. She's got 17 perception, he's got 16, so it makes sense. I'll put her in the front.
To me, my thoughts shall shield you.
I'll put Aleph in the back.
Your thoughts must flow deeply.
What does she have? She has a fine dagger, fine padded armor, and a fine crossbow. And she has no weapon skills that I know of. Considering I want her gaining focus, I probably do want to stick with a fast weapon. So dagger's not a bad choice. Stiletto would be pretty good too. About getting her some better armor in the future. Okay, let's roll like this.
Indeed.
So from here I can go. No, still can't go to Twin Elms. I probably have to. That's a different path from Stormwall Gorge, I guess. Alright. So where's the inn? Oh, there it is. Willie Ferris. Whatever. You see a modestly furnished house, warm from the cooking fire, lit as at its far end. This man is sitting in a high back chair, looking at a large book with a small boy in his lap. He smiles and asks the child about the pictures on the pages as he points to different parts of them. He looks up as a woman approaches to stir something in the pot hanging over the fire. She adds some carrots to the pot, mixes them in, then stands and turns to the man. She says something to him and leans in to give him a kiss when a knock comes at the door. The man makes the stand and the woman motions for him to stay. She walks to the door and glances out the window. It is already too dark outside for anything to be seen. She lifts the bolt on the door and pulls it open, revealing a tall, lanky man with a strange smile on his face. There is a wet, tearing sound. The woman makes a weak groan, collapsing to the floor, blood quickly pooling around her. The man in the chair leaps to his feet, grabbing his son, interposing himself between the boy and the man at the door, who steps over the body and enters the house. Galark vowed you would feel his pain, the man says conversationally as 4 other men enter the house behind him. It appears your rent has come due.
Brotherhood?
He hated me anyway. I was glad to be gone. The Dukes are my parents now. The Republics, my children.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Potions for sale. Potions and ow. Oh.
Good day, stranger.
A young woman leans against the wagon. One arm and one side of her face are covered in bandages with raw, rippled flesh showing underneath. A minty, tangy scent wafts from her dressing. She smiles painfully. Just ventured into town? I'm about dry on some of my stocks, but you're welcome to have a look-see. How did you get burned? She turns her face to the ground. By the flame. How bad does it look? Terrible, I know it. Who cares how it looks? What matters is that you're okay. Suppose you're right. Good thing I know my poultices. I've been keeping an eye on a drake's nest east of town at Durford Crossing. The beast stayed just long enough to lay a clutch and move on. Thank the Sky Mother it wasn't a full-grown dragon. She looks at her bandaged arm and grimaces. Fresh eggs are much more useful than the ones that get passed between merchants or left in nests for weeks or more, and that clutch looked to be at its peak. Though thought I'd see about getting an egg, but I didn't realize so many of them had already hatched, or that young worms were so territorial. What's so special about these eggs? They're one of the strongest tonics known to Kith. If you leave out Carogolan, of course. Not saying anyone should take that, but dragon eggs are known to make Kith bold, purposeful. Some even think they'll protect from beeswax. She shrugs. All I know is everyone's pining after potions made from dragon eggs. But the damn roads. Can't reach none of my suppliers, so I'm stuck with whatever I can scrounge up in the wood. Durcap, river reed, and the like. I could get an egg for you. She keeps her gaze steady, but you see hope kindling in her eyes and twitching at the corners of her mouth. I sure hope you're not leading me on. I don't think I could stand getting burned again. She bites her lip. If you really mean to go after it, I'd certainly pay you. Just remember, big as they are, dragon eggs are fragile, and there's a lot more I can do with a whole one.
Well met, friend.
She adjusts one of her bandages. Anything else I can do for you? I've got some handy ointments if you're traveling the road anytime soon. I'm looking for an Orlan named Nifred. I did see an Orlan lady headed into the Dracogen just the other day. She points across the road at a large building. Don't know what her name was, but she was acting real sneaky-like. What's wrong with the roads? Noise of disgust rattles from her throat. Brigands, looters, you name it. The gods may be hollowing out our babies, but it's grown folk that's rubbing out the rest of us. People are scrambling to Defiance Bay because they hear there's healthy births there, and all those refugees in abandoned homes attract desperate sorts like flies on dog shit. Let's see what you got. She steps aside. Sure thing. The shelves of her cart contain jars, vials, and bundled paper packets. Nature endurance, that's pretty good. I will buy some binding copper. That's useful for some crafting. Yeah, I'll buy that potion. It's a useful one to have.
Your thoughts must flow deeply indeed.
The smell around here reminds me of this stable hand, Drutman. Not real popular with the women, Drutman.
What do we have here? Villager, villager, villager. She's been missing for days. You people can't keep stonewalling us. Okay. That's another guy looking for. Trigos Curieri. Can't find it anywhere. I never. We'll talk about this later. Get back to the dives. I'll take care of our customer.
Hello.
A sturdy, broad-shouldered man wipes his hands on his slacks. He reeks of the same foul compound wafting from the vats, and his arms are stained with dye. You looking to purchase some leather? Rumbold mentioned something about an ogre. He's hardly talked about anything else since those pigs of his went missing. The whole town's been worried about that monster. People are starting to see shapes in their windows at night, hearing it growl and the snoring of their mates. It would put a lot of minds at ease if someone got rid of it. He scrapes at red pigment under his fingernails. I sometimes venture into the wilderness, collecting ingredients for my dyes, mind you. I've seen tracks east of here, near the river, that couldn't have been anything else. He wipes a splotch of dye from his elbow with his shirt tail. Something else you need? What's in the collapsed tower? It's collapsed. Nothing. He rolls his eyes and shrugs. A few hides on stretching racks and the tallow stench danglers always grumbling about. The rest of the keep's dust, just like the fool lady Thainu who tried to hold it. There's a bard at the inn who will tell you the whole blazing story if you want to hear it. Have you seen Nifre and Orlin from Defiance Bay? I make it a point to keep out of other people's business. Alright, well, let's see what you got. He's got exceptional armors. Whoops, no, not yet. Though I might buy some. Exceptional hide. Exceptional hide and exceptional leather. Girdle of mortal protection. Decrease critical damage. Often purchased by soldiers with the means. These belts are laden with charms granting protection to the wearer. Though a simple band of dark leather, this particular girdle provides a defense against killing blows, turning a blade aside at the final moment, or else cushioning a strike from a blunt object. That's pretty cool. And troll hide belt. Regeneration, +1 endurance. Per what? Per second? This belt has been crafted from the mossy hide of a forest troll, with intertwined vines and leaves forming a solid and resistant piece of clothing. Any damage done to the belt tends to be obscured by new growth, for the moss and small plants which grow upon the belt retain some life. Though the resulting effect is somewhat like wearing an herb garden around one's waist, the piece of hide holds some of the troll's power, granting the wearer the creature's ability to recover from wounds. Alright, I'm taking both of these belts. And do I want to get her hide or leather? Leather has better... So 11 pierce, 11 freeze, 5 corrode, 15/5 corrode. We'll go with the hide. It's less recovery speed penalty. Going back and forth. Cool. Now let's see. I'm gonna put the girdle of moral protection on him, because a critical can pretty much insta-kill him sometimes. Hopefully that'll keep that from happening as much. And the regenerating belt. It would make most sense for either one of my frontline fighters, or for Durance to keep him alive so he can keep healing people. Let's give it to Palagina. Beefstick can regenerate himself with an ability. Well, she can heal herself too, for that matter, though. I'm gonna give the belt to her. There we go. I'm not one for chit-chat, Amo. Speak to Triggle if you've got questions. Dyes fill the wooden vats. They smell of dung and plant matter. She looks cool with the hide armor. Can I change the colors? Got black and black. She likes her black. About like a dark purple. Oh, that does change things. That's the stripes. I see. Maybe for the other color. What is... That doesn't seem to change anything. suppose let's go to the inn. Anybody outside to talk to?
What?
Can anyone see me?
I'll see what I can find.
Crap. Let's get everybody
Your
a little
thoughts
bit
must
further.
go deeply indeed.
There we go.
Laying low.
What? You can trust me.
Nobody saw nothing. I wasn't stealing no vegetables. I don't know what you're talking about. The Dracogen Inn. The portrait depicts a man and a woman dressed in Edder garb that would have been in style a century ago. The heavy frame has been battered, and the plate that once bore the patron's name has been scratched out. They share a passionate embrace which seems at odds with the disgust on their faces. This table has been scarred and stained from decades of use. They're all like, I hate hugging you so much.
I just want to find her. Surely even you can understand that.
We're decent folk, my lord. Perhaps you should leave and check the wilds.
As you near, you feel vibrant history. You see this woman running through the streets of a small city. She pushes her way through the crowd, glancing over her shoulder as she does. Her clothing is torn and her hair is disheveled. Even though she appears to be attempting to escape from someone, her eyes sparkle with joy. Her mouth is pulled back in an enormous grin, and occasionally a small giggle works its way out of her throat. While looking over her shoulder, she runs headlong into a well-dressed man standing at one of the market stalls. The moment she sees the man she's run into, her face changes. Gone is the glee, replaced by fear. Her grin twists into a frown, her bottom lip quivering. The man, seeing her appearance, expresses concern for her well-being, and she leans against him, weaving a tale of a brutish man with wandering hands. As she speaks, her own hands travel over his body, seeking and exploring. There's a shout from across the crowd, and they both look over to see a large, angry man approaching, roughly pushing his way through the crowd that separates them. She stiffens against him, feigning fear. The man tells her not to be afraid and steps in front of her to block the path of the figure who is coming nearer. The woman smiles, slowly backing away from them both, then lets out a gleeful cackle. Her protector turns confused and sees her departing, laughing and shaking a coin purse. She spins and races off through the crowded marketplace. Confused, the man feels at his belt. His face hardens and he yells, joining the chase after the laughing woman, losing herself in the crowd. Ah, thief. Can I speak to these guys? Lord Harrond. Hold on. The man wears Edder-style robes, simple but elegant. His fine leather shoes look like they were made for padding around the indoors, yet they are caked with mud. He yanks at a lock of hair twined around his silk-gloved finger. His fine features are etched with anxiety.
My child is out there. Do they not understand?
My lord, we're doing everything we can. Unfortunately, these villagers...
Beasts take them all. I don't care how you do it, but find her.
He jerks a few strands from his head. Your child is missing, I take it.
Yes, Lady Alice, my daughter.
He tugs at the fingertips of his gloves.
I've asked around, but nobody in this mud hole has any concerns beyond their swine. They turn my men away like beggars and seem downright pleased to be of no use. But you You're not one of my soldiers. And you look like you're used to getting your hands dirty, if you don't mind my saying so.
No, don't mind at all. His guard leans in. My lord, a simple vagabond. Harrond raises a hand to silence the man. If you find her, he nibbles the thumb of one silk glove. Tell her I won't be upset with her. She can come back and all will be well. I just want to make sure that Alice, my child, is safe. Nothing in the world is more important to me. I'd like to ask you some questions about her.
Elise. Of course.
He blinks at you and licks at his lips. Describe Lady Elise. She's a striking young woman, bears more resemblance to her mother than to me. She has auburn hair and delicate, well-bred features. She must be 28 or 29 now. Tell me about her disappearance. We'd stopped in Durford for a few days. On her fourth evening here, I was making plans to continue our journey. Lady Elise was feeling unwell and went to bed. When I retired a couple hours later, I found that she had vanished. None of my men had seen her go, and no one in the inn knew where she was. Since then, my people have been combing the village, but we've yet to find a clue, and the locals have been no help. Why did you and Elis come to Durford? It was merely a stop along the way to Aina's Rest. However, she took ill shortly before our arrival, so it seemed prudent to allow her a few days to recover. What's in Aina's Rest? He frowns as if about to protest, but he gives in with a sigh. Lady Elis has reached an age where it is prudent for her to marry. Given this legacy business, I can't let her fertile years slip by, nor do I want her womb to fester in the presence of so many Hollowborn. There are better roads along the coast. Wouldn't it have been easier to follow them to Aina's Rest? If I thought that, I wouldn't be slogging through the forest, would I? He waves a hand. The main roads are clogged with people fleeing one way or another to try to escape Waidwin's legacy. It would be difficult for a caravan like mine to pass without incident. At the time, it seemed more prudent to move quietly along the back roads. Where's the rest of your family? Surely they wouldn't want to miss the rest of your daughter's betrothal. Lady Harrond is ill-suited for travel, I'm afraid, and unfortunately Elis has few other relatives. My sister and her husband, Elis's aunt and uncle, of course, have been visiting Eder these past months. He rubs his knuckles. And as for siblings, Elis has none. My wife has only given birth to Hollowborn, since Elis, that is. I see, but going back to your daughter. Let's go back to my previous question. Tell me about yourself.
I'm Lord Nestor Harrond of Defiance Bay. My family has been prominent there since Imperial times. Our primary estate is on the outskirts of Brackenbury, but we have holdings in New Haomar as well. Those went to my sister and her husband.
All right. Goodbye. Danda Valero. You see a man open the door of a house, slow with fatigue. He steps inside, unlacing his boots, rubbing his temples, wrinkle of a smile lighting his face as he moves into a generous kitchen. He calls for someone, slicing himself some bread. The house creaks gently in response. His lips purse and he pads out of the kitchen into a large room with a staircase. Chewing slowly, he takes the stairs one at a time, calling once more. No response. His body freezes for a moment as he walks into a room upstairs. Nothing on the lone bed but an abundance of faded felt toys. Moving faster, he checks each room, his calls growing more urgent. No response. Any sign of exhaustion is gone, replaced with limber panic. He checks cupboards, baths, everywhere a child might hide. Nothing. Then, a letter next to the door he came in from, with a queer symbol on its wax seal, one he's seen before. He crumples, shoulders shaky against the wall, hard wall. Nobody sees him weep. So his kid was kidnapped? Alright, let's talk to the innkeeper. Dangler!
Greetings.
The innkeeper digs inside a mug with a dirty rag. His eyes under his thick brows are tired but watchful. He gives you a quick nod as you approach the bar. Don't see many travelers these days. Something I can do for you? What was your exchange with that nobleman about? He looks up from his polished tankard and glowers at the Lord. Folk around here are decent. They mind their own business. You want to stick your nose in it? Go talk to him yourself. Alright. Tell me about Lord Heron's daughter. He frowns and shrugs. His lordship said she up and went missing the other day. He wipes a tankard with a ragged towel, twisting it with swift, jerking motions. I don't know any more than that. However these lording bastards handled their affairs ain't no business of mine. Perhaps you could make it your business. He scowls at you. Put them coppers away. My pay come from honest day's work. Enough for me and should be enough for anyone. But you're just like that lord, rattling your purse as if it's fit to buy the leave of gods and kith. What did you mean about Lord Heron and buying the leave of gods and kith? He shakes his head. Look, I don't want no trouble from you or him or anybody else. I'm just waiting for him to tire of my ale and leave so things can get back to normal around here. I won't stand by and allow an innocent girl to come to harm. Help me find her. He leans on the bar and sighs. That girl, Elis, she was looking to disappear. You should have seen her, watching the door like a sheep at slaughter. All the same, she didn't hardly speak to no one. Only folk I seen her talk to is Triggle. Okay. He nods at the east window. His shop's by the broken tower. Bit of a hothead, that one. My advice is to let the matter drop. Like I say, it don't profit to dig around in other people's business. Let's talk about something else. I have questions about Durford. He runs his rag around the rim of the mug. Ask. Have you seen an Orlan named Nifri? He jerks his head at the stairs. Twitchy lady, that one. Tell me about the village. Walk from one bridge to the next and you've seen it. We're quiet, hard-working folk. We keep to ourselves and don't take to being pushed around. He glares at the well-dressed man standing off to the side. Used to be a castle here, built by some family of Aduran Thanes back when the Empire first came. Only one tower's still standing, and that's part of Triggle's shop now. Sid, the bard by the fire, could spin you the yarn if you're so inclined. Who lives in Durford? Not many anymore. Hard to keep people around when everyone's here's birthing Hollowborn. But we got a few who stick around and do business. Triggle's the leather curer. Hendina crafts potions, and Winfrith trades the general goods. Rumbold's a pig farmer, or was anyway. Tell me about Triggle. He's a courier. Treats leather and makes armor and a few other goods with it. Problem is, the smell of tallow and deer shit tends to put people off their food, and his shop's right next door. What's Hendina's story? Lady's a clever hand with potions and poultices. Got herself into trouble with a nest of worms, or so I hear. Her cart's on the east end of town. And Winfrith? Been around even longer than I have. Nice enough fellow, but never could find his way to the end of a sentence. His shop's around the square. Something to happen to Rumbold's pigs, I take it. Damn ogre carried them off. Now, he squeals more than the herd ever did. He shrugs. It's rotten luck. I want to order food and drinks. Let's get camping supplies. And let's get a room. Let's get the worm's nest. For once, let's stay luxurious style. I have the coin. So where's this bard? Ah, there we go. Alright. So, save the game here. And we'll talk to the bard next time and then explore the rest of the town. Go upstairs, look for Nefri, and explore the rest of the town.